One of those meetings where you say, nothing is gonna come from this.
Kept on pushing me to, or ruining me.
Fashion is one of the hardest.
Yeah, we have those moments that we want to give up. Like sometimes I just wake up and say, I've just had enough,
Sort of that flame of and the interest for fashion and constantly wanting to create that new thing that keeps you going. But the most beautiful things actually is when you do something that actually makes a difference to somebody else.
Hi and welcome to Empower Beauty. My name is Nicola. Good morning, my name is Daria, and today we have two special guests, Charles and Ron, established fashion designers. We're really excited to have them on our show today, and we're just going to jump right into the interview. So the first one I want to start with, that when I met you recently, Charles, you had reminded me that I walked in your first ever show.
Exactly.
1996?
Probably 94. Probably it was 1994. It was at the old university in Valletta.
Exactly.
So a long time ago.
I was, I think, 18. Or
You were very young, beautiful, curly, big hair.
I do even remember the dress that I wore.
Yes.
It impressed me. I mean, it just shows how much meticulous you are about your designs.
You had two outfits. I remember exactly the day and what you wore. It was at the old university in Valletta. And you had this beautiful, big curly hair. And you had two outfits. One of the outfits was an A-line skirt and the top. And I think with the top was you had, I think, a yellow top, something like that, like a halter neck top. And you had a white dress, broderie anglaise white dress, I remember.
It's funny because that is such a classic. And it was really funny how I got to meet you, because I had met Joe Fountain in a shoe shop. And he was like, oh, I have two things it'd be really good to model for. And I had come again back to Malta, especially to be in your show. It was a great experience.
In fact, the show was a collaboration with Joe, that's first show.
So, since then, you've propelled into stardom. We've got to say that, in Malta, you're Malta's #1 fashion designer, and internationally, you're really making your mark as well, which is fantastic, So, we wanted to ask, from those humble beginnings, like when I first met you both, we did a bit of research and we saw that you had come from a family that are tailors.
Yes.
So it was in your blood, so to speak. And kind of you met Ron on holiday and you fell in love. And how did it start from those humble beginnings that you kind of thought, okay, I want to, collaborate together?
Basically, we met in Amsterdam, and it was one of those meetings where you say, nothing is going to come from this, but then Charles stayed for a week, and then we started traveling back and forth, and I said, I need to explore this, because if I don't, I'm going to regret it probably for the rest of my life. So I quit university, left everyone, my family. I was young, 21. Left everyone behind, drove them all mad, and went to Malta. And sort of we never looked back. And obviously I saw the talent Charles had for making clothes, and he was always like, oh, this is something, it's normal, it's like, almost everyone knows how to make clothes here. But I said, for me, it's not normal. This is very special. And I always had an interest in fashion. And so I sort of pushed him, we need to do something with this. And from there, we opened sort of our first studio in his bedroom. In fact, this morning I walked past the house where that bedroom was. And that's how it started, the way I make-do, changing room, sewing machine, and the table, and that's how it started. And from there on, we kept on sort of gradually developing the business. At first, it was just mostly Charles on his own, doing made-to-measure, bridal wear, evening wear, and then the shows started coming along, because we wanted to sort of show, hey, we're not just dressmakers, we're also designers, we have ideas, which back then was a very new concept for Malta, because the fact that you're a dressmaker, or that was widely accepted, but the whole concept of being a designer was quite new.
Your first brand was Beatrix. Is that
Yes,
right?
that's right. We used to get a brand from Holland, and I used to do collections as well. It was like a mix. Then we closed that shop. We stayed there for 6 years, and we moved on, and we took it more serious in opening another studio in Birkirkara, which we're still there now. And we started doing frequent shows. Then we were invited the first show abroad in Italy, so we were very, very excited about it. And they invited us again. And after that, when we were in Italy, actually, they told us you'd have to change the name. You'd have to do it Charles and Ron because people will remember you more. So we had to drop the Beatrix, which for me was a bit sad. In fact, even with the Maltese, they couldn't get used to it. They used to call me, and instead of saying Charles and Ron, they say Beatrix for a long time. But then sort of one thing led to another, and he kept on pushing me or ruining me.
Always creating more stress in our lives.
Yes,
That's also, it's things develop, but obviously things become more intense and more stressful the more you do, and the more it grows. So that is always a bit.
As I think, judging by your characters, you're a good balance for each other, because you kind of, I see Charles like the typical creative, it's like doesn't really want to be bombarded with the business plans and the stress.
No,
of
that for
these
sure.
things. And you, on the other hand, is very level-headed, and you kind of take one problem or step at a time, and you kind of make it all come together.
Yes, it's true. And now looking back, I admire designers who do it on their own even more now, because I think how can you do something so complex on your own? For us, it's always been some talents that Charles has, I didn't have, and we always fill in. We fill in for each other as well. So I have even more admiration for designers that do it all on their own, because it's not an easy line of work.
Fashion is one of the hardest
Yes,
businesses to
Yes.
be successful in.
It's hard because you have to renew yourself every few months. It's not like another business where you launch a product and it stays on the market for years
Yes.
to come. We are always every few months you have to reinvent everything, so that makes it more difficult,
I
obviously.
guess you finish I guess you finish one season and you're already
You
now
have to
thinking
start.
of the
Yes,
next
yes,
season.
Yes.
exactly.
Like at the moment in the shops we have spring summer 23. We already showed fall winter 23-24, and spring summer 24 is ready. So it's sometimes it's crazy. When people talk to you about the collection, I get confused because sometimes they say, "Oh, that dress," and I'm thinking, but they're talking about spring 23, and my mind is in spring 24. So.
But besides complementing each other, like coming from different backgrounds, what is the formula of success? Because you've been in business, successful business, more than 30 years. Is it about talent? Is it about hard work, or being in the right place at the right time?
Persistence, I think.
Persistence, yes, it's not giving up, because it's very easy to give up in every situation, but you have to keep on we have those moments that we want to give up. Like sometimes I just wake up and I say I've just had enough, but then either he calms me down or I calm him down, because you have to keep on working harder and prove yourself, that you can do it.
I think that's every successful person or couple or group that works together. They say persistence is the key.
Yes, exactly. But it's whatever is thrown at you, basically, you keep on going. That is the I think the end of the story, because many people that don't last for so long, at some point or another said, "That's it, I've had it, I can't do it anymore." So yeah, the fact that we're still here, I think persistence is the most important. And obviously, again, coming back to having each other's back, and when one one is a little bit down, the other one pushes a bit more, and I think that is also something it's very good to have.
When you're
Our couple.
Yes, exactly.
when you're a couple, you have
Yes.
to understand each other. You know, you have to try and understand each other in every situation, because otherwise,
But we sometimes reflect to like seeing both of you working together, and like since me and Daria met, you go through ups and downs, and you kind of go through certain problems or situations, and you one helps the other. Sometimes you clash, but it's getting through it, you know. And
Yes.
we realize that when there's a duo collaboration and work, kind of we are looking at people like you to give us inspiration, because we say, okay. And my one advice that I always said, I said, we need to just keep pushing forward, keep pushing forward.
Yes,
Whatever
yes.
happens,
Yes,
just
yes,
brush it
yes.
off and keep on pushing forward.
Yes,
And
exactly.
you are
Yes.
examples of that.
I mean, you will have clashes when you're, you know, when you're two, but you can't keep on holding, you
No,
know.
exactly.
You just have to, you just have that clash, and after a few minutes, you have to let it go and
Exactly.
move on with the next thing.
In fact, I always joke, I said, we're like married.
Ah,
We're gonna
that's
have
true.
our ups and downs.
Yes.
That's how it is.
So it's interesting.
And besides the personal part, that sometimes we have challenges, we as a couple and you of course as well. Have you ever had like artistic or creative crisis when you didn't feel inspiration, you don't know what kind of ideas you want to produce, show?
Well, sometimes a little, but then that's because you're not focusing, because your mind is thinking of something else or a lot of things at one go.
Yeah, that's
Especially with us, we have the shops and the stuff, you know, which
Some-
is
sometimes it gets a lot, and when you're working on creative ideas and you have a lot of other things going on, you're doing something which is creative and you should be relaxed and focused, but there's the stress sort of ruining the moment, and then we end up like, oh, not like that, no, I didn't like it, or the fabrics arrive and Charles is like, I don't like any of them. It's like complete drama.
it happens several times.
You know, and I'm like, well, I'm not seeing what you're seeing. What is so terrible about them, you know? But then after a little while, when things calm down, oh yeah, maybe it can work, and maybe.
Yes.
But what do you usually do? Just taking time? Or, I don't know, you go abroad for inspiration or...
I think most of the time when we get inspired is really when we are either abroad or in Gozo, when we're trying to relax, because during the week, during the working day, it's impossible to get creative and think of something, because you have too many things, stuff, you know, questioning you all the time. How am I going to do this? Or how am I going to solve, you know? So you're all the time on the go, or the telephone rings, a client. And when you're like either the weekend, that's why we're always saying that we never have a holiday, because in our holiday, we have to think of a collection or what we're going to do next. Because in our working days, we don't have the time to do that. So we ended up like, even our holidays are working holidays as well.
Well, how would that inspiration strike you? Would you be just sitting down having a coffee, and then suddenly, I mean, maybe you see something and you say, that would be nice, both the fabric or that color.
For me, it's the way how you look at life. Like, and it's everything is inspirational, and even just walk or driving somewhere for me, or walking somewhere, just looking outside, walking into a room where a certain color palette is so it's everything. And then once you start thinking of ideas, those things come back, and we sort of throw them out. Okay, what do you think? Maybe this, and maybe this. These should be the main colors, and this is maybe what we should do for the next one. So it's an ongoing thing with us. As Charles said, it doesn't stop.
Always creating.
Yeah, it doesn't stop, because you're always obviously thinking about what's coming next, and which is also what makes it interesting. Because when people ask, well, how does it work? Because you're all the time together, but our work is intertwined in our lives, you know. It's just part of it, because we're always, that interest is always there.
Yeah,
and that
yes.
is, and I think that is also why we've persevered so long, because that sort of that flame of and the interest for fashion, and constantly wanting to create that new thing that keeps you going. I think that is our drive, especially for me, and especially when we're talking about stress and everything. Then when I start thinking, oh, we can working on a new collection, and I forget everything because it's something new again, you know.
Yes, yes.
And how did you end up designing, being the designer? Because that's really amazing, you know. Sort of when you met Charles, you saw his, like we're going back again, but like you met Charles, you saw his ideas, and then obviously you progressed, and then kind of, how did it happen that you took on the role as the designer for like future collection?
I don't know, it all happened quite organically. I mean, obviously there was an interest, and if you see some of the sketches I did in the beginning, they were like cartoon characters. That's how I used to draw. And then I wanted to learn. I started looking at what other people do, always finding something that I could learn by watching other people, watching the great designers.
Because you are self-taught, is that right?
Yes.
Amazing. Both of you.
Both of us.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So it was always challenging ourselves, learning new skills, learning new techniques. How do they do that? How do they do this? Experimenting. That is just
Constantly learning.
Yes,
until today.
Till today, yes, it's a journey that never ends because you never know enough.
I think that gives you a life mission, you know, like I can say that in my instance, I've been doing makeup for, I think now over 20 years, and kind of now I'm progressing, doing Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. If you have that hobby in your life that keeps on being, well, it starts as a kind of a hobby because you enjoy it. You know, it's not really a hobby, but it's a creative outlet that you can make a living off. I think there's no end to your age limit, you know, and I think that's what keeps you moving on, enjoying life, and
yes, and then I think it's like you know, there's always something new to look forward to and to learn, and it goes for all sorts of type of work.
Yeah.
It's like I always say, people that think that they've reached the top and know it all, then you're stuck. That's it. I think you're finished if that's your mindset, because there's always something you can learn from someone. And
yeah, I think it's a journey.
And maybe for our audience, for watching us and they want to be a designer as well, being self-taught, do you think it's advantage or disadvantage? Would you advise young generation?
I think it's always good to, you know, with nowadays technology and everything. I mean, it's always good to have a good background and the course. And I can say I was lucky because I was brought up with a family of seamstresses, so I was all the time seeing my aunties and my grandmothers doing something. So I wanted like to copy them. In fact, when I went to tailoring school, I was 13, I think. I went in and I already knew how to sew. So for me it was very difficult to stay there because they teach you from the very, you know, beginning, and I felt like I'm wasting time. I had too much energy and too much, you know, in me, too many things to do. So I had to leave after 6 months. I left. But I think these things, you either have it in you or you don't, because I do get a lot of students sometimes that come, and you can see from one another that they're either just fashion designers, that they, you know, they're very talented, they know how to draw, and they have very brilliant ideas, but then when it comes to technique, they can't sit on a machine and, you know, you give them fabric and tell them do something. Maybe I'm the other way. I'm more in the technique side because I can't draw. If I show you a sketch of what I do, you'll be scared for the rest of your life.
How it's usually happening? You have an ideas and you counter on and...
Yes, especially when I have my own client, you know, we talk, we exchange our ideas, and then I tell Ron, could you draw the sketch for me? You know, I want here this, and he does it. And when we're doing a show, a collection, we come up with an idea, and Ron starts designing, and then like I butt in, I tell him this won't work or this will work, or because no, I can't draw at all. I don't have the. You
Yes.
give me a pair of scissors and a piece of fabric. Okay, I can do whatever you want, but I can't draw.
Maybe it's hard to be the whole package, you know, to be able to be so technical with cutting and tailoring, because that's a master within itself. And then also designing.
There's so much to it, and then nowadays, besides those skills, there's all the technology as well. There's a lot of computer programs. I start sketching on an iPad since a couple of years back. So we try to incorporate a little bit of the technology, but we were not brought up with all those programs. So in fact, we have people that assist us on our team when it comes to Photoshop. I understand most of it, and I can instruct and understand, but they are the wizards, you know. They're younger than us, and then they're so good with all of that. So there's so many aspects to it. But I think a background is very good, especially nowadays. But I also agree with Charles. If the talent and the drive isn't there, then you're not going to go very far with with all the background that you would have got, because it's you who need to push through.
You have to have that creativity.
Yes, you have to, because you can do several courses, you know, but if you don't have that fire in you that wants, you know, to make things all the time and create things, then
What's also important is we speak to a lot of young people and that want to get into this business. They all want to be fashion designers.
Yeah.
Everybody forgets all the other jobs that there are out there in fashion and that are related to fashion design, but not exactly fashion design. So I think if you want to get into the fashion business, have a broader look at what there is, because there's so much nowadays. Maybe in Malta we're relatively small, but internationally there's so many different types of jobs you can do within the fashion industry. And in fact, like also I tell them, start out just working in a retail store, because you get the gist of how things work, how clients perceive products, you know, what works, what doesn't. So yeah, never be afraid to start at the bottom of the ladder as well, because you can learn a lot and work your way up.
Very good advice, and it's true. I think starting, like if you're young, very young, while you're studying, starting at retail, you get to see the collections, you get to see the customers, and it's
Discover your passion as well.
exactly.
You have presence in Malta, right? You have few shops, you have a cafe, and also abroad, right?
abroad we have a showroom. We have a showroom in Los Angeles. We send our collections there, and when celebrities have events or awards, or they're launching a cover of something, you know, they go there and they pick up dresses from a lot of designers. And if you're lucky, they get to choose your, you know.
But you've been
Your
lucky.
dress.
I saw a list of
You're very lucky, because some of the list of celebrities, it's so impressive. It's amazing. It really is.
We've been lucky. We've dressed up some very nice celebrities, and some of them are still like in contact with Ron. They even message him, like Destiny's Child. They message Ron.
Amazing.
It's yeah.
How do
In
you
the beginning,
feel
it
that?
in the beginning it was quite surreal, because you know I still remember when we got our first dress in the local newspaper here. I think it was a bridesmaid dress, but we were like, oh my God, we're in the newspaper, and I can still remember that moment. So then, all of a sudden, when this started taking off, and I'm a very big Destiny's Child fan.
So even more.
Yeah.
And we dressed Michelle Williams, and the pictures came out, and I was literally sitting in my little office, which was big back then, still at home, like, and I was crying. I thought, oh my God, I can't believe it. This is crazy. And then we ended up messaging. I mean, I was messaging Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child. So it was like, okay, this is like a very weird moment.
And then bringing on to your other success that we know that you really hold dear to your heart was the exhibition for the Commonwealth at Buckingham Palace.
It was. I wasn't expecting it so grand, and in fact, I also had a panic attack when oh my God.
He wasn't expecting it grand. Buckingham Palace. What for me, what about this was like, okay, we set goals and dreams, and one day maybe we'll do New York Fashion Week, and then that happens. But like Buckingham Palace was never on the dream list. It was like this thing happened, and we were selected, and we were very, very happy and proud that we were selected to represent Malta. But then, as Charles said, and when we were there, obviously we're walking into Buckingham Palace, and
Red carpet.
obviously beautiful paintings everywhere, very impressive. And then you walk up the stairs, and we saw our dress like inside the palace. It was,
And they placed it exactly in the middle of the hall in the exhibition, and we're like, oh my God, they did it exactly in the middle. They told us to stand, every designer had to stand by the design, because Kate Middleton and some other royalties might pass, and will chat with you. And they were saying, okay, so no, they're not going to pass from next to Charles and Ron. And all of a sudden, like, she came face to face, like in front of me, and oh my God,
Wow.
I didn't know what to say.
Then that's the moment you're not drawn.
I ended up saying, hello, Kate, you okay? And I was like, oh my God, what did I say? And she bursted out laughing, and I was so embarrassed.
they had instructed us that the royal family wants it to be informal, and saying ma'am would be enough. But Charles just
I
said,
took it a bit.
Charles just said, hey Kate.
Oh my God, I don't know what came out of me.
And then you also, to top up that evening, you had the best compliment, I think, for fashion designers to get from Anna Wintour. And
Yes.
Anna Wintour went around, and she stopped next to us. She wasn't wearing any sunglasses.
Wow.
She was smiling, and she told us that you did a beautiful work. It's a beautiful dress, and so it was very special.
I can imagine.
And I couldn't sleep that night.
I don't blame you.
I couldn't sleep. But it was very special.
It kind of must have made you feel all those years of perseverance, like it was worth it.
Yes, I think so. It was one of those moments that you will treasure it forever, and it has nothing to do with how big things have become. But as you said, it's like, okay, was sort of a crown on our work and all the years of hard work. Yeah.
And you're representing Malta, and Malta is a relatively small country abroad. How do you feel? Because you portray Maltese history and art in your design. How does it feel when you share that you're from Malta?
For us, it's always been, over the years, we started incorporating things from our culture, architecture, anything that's really could inspire us, which is Maltese and Mediterranean. So it's always been our pride to show that as well. And I think many times when we show a collection, at first people will see a beautiful pattern and they say, oh, this is beautiful. But then when they come close up, we tell the story, and it makes it even more interesting. And at the same time, obviously, we're always telling the story of our home country, because there's always something to say about what the prints we used. This has become something that is part of us, and I think it's also what makes us stand out, because obviously this little tiny island in the Mediterranean, we have a lot of culture, and it makes us different from anybody else showing collections there. So,
In fact, we were thinking, like, who's the secret historian? Because there's so much culture in your designs.
Ron makes a lot of research.
for me, it's interesting. In the beginning, maybe the elements we used were more in your face. It was the lutsu, the more obvious ones. And I think back then it was very new, because nobody was doing this. And for me, I think as an outsider coming here, I saw the beauty in what maybe a lot of the Maltese took for granted. And we started using those elements. But then as the year passed by, I wanted to always delve a little bit deeper and go with something which is maybe not so much in your face, but you have to say, okay, I didn't know that, or like start to use elements which are there's so much out there, you know. So and we want to use that as well.
You appreciate culture, Maltese culture, and you even learn Maltese language.
My joke is always I must have been Maltese in a previous life, because I was, as soon as I arrived here, it was like, okay, I love it here, this is my place. And the language, I never studied it. I just, after a few years, started saying some sentences here and there, and that was it. Yesterday I was on the phone with my parents, and I started a sentence in Dutch, and the rest of the sentence ended up in Maltese, which never happened. Usually it goes to English, so I was like, okay, the Maltese language is really at the forefront of my brain now.
So we have a question related to our project, Empowering Beauty, because the idea of our project is to empower women, to make them feel more confident, to promote self-love, self-acceptance, and I think you're working in the same direction. So what kind of image of a woman you would portray in your collections, or you have in mind maybe when you create dresses? Or
a woman that definitely wants to stand out and not afraid to be herself, and a woman that loves life, because our collections are a bit like that sometimes with the colors, and so I think that's the most.
So strong, confident.
Strong, yes, very confident woman.
Scared to be the center of attraction.
Yeah.
in fact, I have few items from your friend, and I always get compliments like, oh, such a color, oh, such a pattern. So it definitely grabs attention of people.
Yes, a lot of the times they make a statement, and we always obviously try and make women feel that beauty and feel that power of being powerful with how you present yourself. So yeah, that's very important.
Maybe some ideas or some tips how women can be confident in general.
From a man's perspective, like what would you maybe advise women that's to hold themselves more confidently in life? From a man's point of view, maybe.
I think they have to let go, because I deal with a lot of women.
Yes, you would
constantly.
be the person to tell us exactly.
And sometimes they are very insecure and they pick on little things that they're not really gonna matter, you know. And if you don't let go and you don't relax yourself, you can wear the most expensive dress in the world because you won't carry it as you should. So I think that's the most important thing. You really have to believe in yourself and
accept yourself, as you
the
are.
way you are, you know. I get a lot of women, like, because they gained a bit of weight, they tell me, but I was of size 26. Yes, but that was in your teens. Forget about it. Even I was, when I met Ron, my waist was 27. It's not that anymore. Why? Because I love eating, I love going out, I love restaurants. I mean, you know, you have to just, it's not that I don't complain that I gained weight, but it can't be on your mind all the time.
Exactly, accepting, be comfortable in your skin, accept the flaws that you have, and just work with them. You know, there's when dressing, there's lots of tricks to cover certain things up, and you know, and yeah, you expose maybe the parts that you're more happy about, and cover up the ones that you're less happy about. Doesn't mean that you need to completely hide yourself. So I think that is the most important. I think nowadays, yes, everybody is striving for that ideal beauty, but I think we all have to realize that perfect picture does not really exist, you know.
First of all, it's too much pressure.
Yes.
Sure,
it
to put
is.
that pressure on yourself.
It is, yes.
It's unrealistic.
Yes.
It's unrealistic. It is too much pressure. And you see the young generation, most of them, they're like all the time, you can see them, they have too much pressure to be on top or to wear the best thing.
So you would seeing obviously you've dealt with women every day of your life, you would say this generation has more pressure than sort of say my generation?
I think so. They're always comparing themselves to somebody else or to the Kardashians or to that.
But one day it's like to have a Kardashian figure, the next it's back to
Yeah.
Kate Moss's
Yes.
body type, you know.
There's always that pressure, like in our days, women who were in fashion, they looked at Kate Moss, Linda Evangelista, they were the perfect. But now, like girls of today, they don't even know who they are. They're, if you mention them, they have the Kardashian lips and the Kardashian eyebrows.
You lose a bit your own identity.
Identity,
I remember
yes.
my time, everyone wanted to have their own look. Nobody wanted to copy each other. The more authentic you looked, the cooler you were.
Yes.
Now it's like a cookie cutter.
I think that it's applying to everything. I see it. It's when our generation. I think in general about beauty, everybody wants to be the same sort of, and individuality is getting a bit lost, which is a pity.
Yes.
You're involved a lot in charity activities or social activities. What are the most closest to your heart or the dearest one?
Well, we worked a lot with the Community Chest Fund. We had several shows for them because I believe that they do a brilliant work, the stories you hear with illnesses and from kids to older people. They need help all the time. We all need help all the time. You'd never know when it's going to hit you, like one day you're good, the next day. In fact, we're also doing a show soon, which is also in aid for the Community Chest Fund.
Yes, we've also worked closely with India. We try and support as much as we can. There was a project over there where these street children, they opened a cafe for the kids to have a job and to work and to actually find to make a life for themselves. And through a friend here, we got in contact with them, and so when we can, we try and support that as well.
Yes.
I think it's important in life when you can, you give a helping hand, or at least use your voice to maybe inspire others to help as well. I feel sometimes it's not even enough. I would love to do even more, because in life you go through life like trying to keep up with everything, but sometimes you think these are the most beautiful things actually, is when you do something that actually makes a difference to somebody else. So maybe that's a future.
Have you ever thought about retirement? Any ideas and plans on bucket list?
No. We think about it, but I couldn't imagine.
But professionally
I don't know. At this point in time, I couldn't imagine it. It would be nice to slow things down a little sometimes.
To have more time for ourselves, but to retire completely, I think it's a bit...
It would be difficult.
I hope you'll probably make a new adventure, a new project.
Probably.
And we also wanted to wish you congratulations that you just received an award from the Malta Fashion Award Show for Best Contributors in Fashion, which is rightly deserved. And I know that you're going to, from what you've told us, keep on going for the next probably 20 plus years. But how many new ventures you're going to partake in, but we really enjoy watching you, and we really just admire your story. It's amazing how you from humble beginnings, that you sort of achieved so many goals, and probably you're going to continue with so many. Your next goal is going to be Milan Fashion Week.
Yes, that's right.
So that's, I'm sure, another bucket list.
Yes.
So we wish you luck for that.
Thank you very much.
So if you enjoyed the interview, catch us on Spotify as well, and please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.